Some games take a while to warm up, and Metroidvanias? They practically turn that into an art form. They start slow, carefully handing you a double jump here, a new attack there. But then, halfway through, it's like someone flips a switch. The world opens up, the combat flows, and suddenly backtracking feels like speedrunning. These aren't just platformers with keys disguised as abilities. They're journeys, ones that reward patience with power and curiosity with control. Whether it's the moment-to-moment action or the sheer joy of movement, these are the Metroidvanias that just keep getting better the deeper you go. Before Metroidvania was a trendy label, Cave Story quietly laid the groundwork for what this genre could become, and it only gets better the longer you play. At first glance, it's deceptively simple. A pixelated platformer with some quirky characters and basic shooting. But stick with it, and you'll find a game that blossoms into a rich, emotionally layered adventure packed with secrets, branching paths, and one of the most rewarding difficulty curves in the genre. What starts as a basic hop and shoot evolves into a journey full of player choice, weapon upgrades that actually matter, and hidden areas that drastically change the outcome of your story. The longer you play, the more you realize how tightly everything is designed, from the controls to the music to the way each new upgrade subtly reshapes how you move through the world. Cave Story doesn't hand you everything at once, and that's what makes it special. Trusts you to explore, to get better, and to earn its best moments. By the time you unlock the true ending, it doesn't feel like you just finished a game. It feels like you conquered one. Don't let the long title fool you. Deedlit in Wonder Labyrinth is one of the sleekest, most satisfying Metroidvanias in recent years, especially once it finds its rhythm. At first, it feels like a solid but familiar homage to Symphony of the Night, gorgeous pixel art, smooth controls, and a light dusting of fantasy lore. But then the elemental system kicks in, and that's where things get interesting. As Deedlit, you gain the power to shift between wind and fire spirits, each affecting movement, attacks, and even enemy damage. Early on, it's just a cool mechanic. But as the levels expand and puzzles become more dynamic, it turns into a full-on dance, one where switching elements mid-air, mid-fight, or mid-puzzle becomes second nature. The game also doesn't overstay its welcome. It's tight, focused, and builds steadily toward a finale that rewards your growing mastery. Boss fights go from straightforward to strategic, and your elemental timing can mean the difference between domination and defeat. It's a game that may start predictably, but by the halfway point, you're juggling elements and tearing through enemies like a pro. This is a hidden gem that truly comes alive the deeper you go. On paper, Yoku's Island Express sounds bizarre. A Metroidvania where you don't jump, because you're a dung beetle tethered to a pinball. But give it time, and this strange little game becomes one of the most joyful experiences in the genre. The early hours are simple. You roll around, hit bumpers, and start to understand how pinball mechanics can replace traditional platforming. But as the island opens up, the magic kicks in. The map becomes a massive, interconnected pinball playground, where every new flipper and shortcut unlocks smoother, more creative movement. And that's the secret to Yoku's charm. The longer you play, the better you feel at navigating. There's almost no combat. Instead, your challenge comes from mastering the island's quirky layout, solving light puzzles, and learning to chain pinball shots with surprising precision. Add in some charming characters, a relaxing atmosphere, and a soundtrack that radiates island vibes, and you've got a game that turns the Metroidvania formula on its head and nails it. It may start slow and strange, but stick with it. By the end, you're not just delivering mail, you're flying across the island with total mastery. And it feels amazing. Islets might look like just another charming indie Metroidvania at first glance. Soft colors, a cute protagonist, and a gentle opening hour. But don't let its humble presentation fool you. This is a game that slowly unfolds into something genuinely heartfelt, surprisingly challenging, and deeply rewarding. You start off small. Basic sword swipes, short jumps, and disconnected floating islands. But as you defeat bosses and reconnect each island to the world map, something incredible happens. the game world itself transforms. Areas stitch together, routes open up, and your ability to move fluidly through once isolated zones turns the map into a seamless playground. And just like the world, your character evolves too. With each upgrade, new combat moves, movement abilities, and traversal tools, Islets shifts from a slow-paced adventure into a fast, responsive action platformer with smart level design and smooth pacing. What really sets Islets apart is how it layers charm and sincerity with solid mechanics. There's a warmth to every interaction, a quiet confidence in its structure, and a sense of momentum that just keeps building. It's one of those games where, before you know it, you're grinning through every boss fight because it just keeps getting better. Animal Well doesn't shout for your attention. It whispers. But behind its minimalist pixel art and eerie silence lies one of the most intriguing slow-burn Metroidvanias in years. First, it's cryptic. You're dropped into a dark, maze-like world with no map, no combat, and barely a hint of where to go. But that's the hook. Animal Well is a game about discovery. Every corner hides secrets, and every tool you find opens up new, mind-bending possibilities. The brilliance here isn't in flashy upgrades or flashy boss fights. It's in how the game teaches you to look differently at everything. A bubble wand might seem like a cute toy at first, until you realize it can be used for traversal, puzzle solving, or even tricking enemies. Nothing is wasted. Every item has layers of depth, and the more you experiment, the more the world unravels in the most satisfying way. Animal Well doesn't hold your hand, but that's the point. It rewards curiosity, observation, and persistence. And the further you go, the deeper the rabbit hole gets. This is a Metroidvania that starts slow and ends with you completely obsessed, combing every pixel for just one more secret. Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom feels like a Saturday morning cartoon brought to life. Bright, colorful, and full of charm. But don't let its cheerful art style fool you. This Metroidvania has depth, and it only gets better the longer you stick with it. You start with the basics. A sword, a few platforming moves, and a curse that turns you into different animal forms. At first, the transformations seem gimmicky, a pig that can sniff out secrets or a frog that can swing on his tongue. But as the game unfolds, each form unlocks entirely new ways to explore, solve puzzles, and fight enemies. The true genius of Monster Boy is how it layers complexity without overwhelming you. Every new area teaches you something, then challenges you to combine abilities in creative ways. 1 minute you're wall jumping as a lion, the next you're gliding through lava as a dragon. By the time the world fully opens up, switching forms mid-run feels natural, and solving elaborate puzzles is downright satisfying. It's a Metroidvania that starts off cute, and grows into something impressively smart, polished, and fun to master. Don't underestimate it, this curse is a gift in disguise. At first glance, Dead Cells might seem like a fast-paced roguelike. All reflexes, dodges, and chaos. But beneath the carnage is a deeply layered Metroidvania that keeps evolving the more you play. Your first few runs? Brutal. You'll fumble through biomes, swing basic weapons, and die a lot. But then the loop sets in. You start unlocking permanent upgrades, discovering secret paths, and refining your build with blueprints and mutations. That's when Dead Cells starts to click. Each new weapon and skill adds more depth, and suddenly you're not just surviving, you're styling on enemies. The movement becomes buttery smooth, combat turns into a rhythmic dance, and biomes once terrifying now feel like speedrun playgrounds. Even exploration feels Metroidvania at its core. Hidden areas, gated paths, and movement-based upgrades like the Vine Rune and Wall Jump let you access more of the world as your skills and knowledge grow. And the best part? Dead Cells never stops growing. With constant updates, new biomes, crossover content, and the incredible return to Castlevania DLC, the game just keeps getting better. What starts as a punishing roguelike ends up as one of the most fluid, rewarding Metroidvania experiences out there. SteamWorld Dig 2 starts with a simple hook: dig deeper. But what begins as a chill mining adventure quickly turns into one of the most rewarding and tightly designed Metroidvanias around. You play as Dorothy, a lone robot searching for her missing friend in a crumbling, steam-powered world. Early on, you're just digging through dirt, collecting resources, and making small upgrades. But then the game slowly starts layering in new mechanics: wall jumps, grappling hooks, pressure bombs, and suddenly you're not just digging, you're flying through caverns like a pro. Every upgrade you earn changes how you move, how you fight, and how you explore. The mines become a sprawling, interconnected world full of secrets, shortcuts, and puzzles that reward creativity. And as your toolset grows, so does the speed and style with which you tear through the underground. What makes SteamWorld Dig 2 special is its pacing. It never overwhelms you, but always gives you something new to play with. And by the end, what started as a slow descent into the earth turns into a fast, thrilling ride through lava-filled caverns and forgotten tech. This is a Metroidvania that literally digs deep and just keeps getting better. The Messenger begins as a love letter to classic 8-bit action platformers. Tight controls, ninja stars, witty dialogue, and brutally tough levels. But just when you think you've got it figured out, it changes everything. Roughly halfway through, The Messenger pulls one of the most brilliant mid-game twists in recent memory. It transforms from a linear action game into a full-blown Metroidvania. The world expands, backtracking becomes meaningful, and the time travel mechanic, flipping between 8-bit and 16-bit timelines, adds a whole new layer of depth to both exploration and puzzle solving. It's more than just a visual gimmick. The way time travel reshapes level layouts and unlocks new paths is pure genius. One moment you're leaping through pixel-perfect gauntlets, the next you're unraveling secrets hidden in a split timeline. And the soundtrack? It seamlessly shifts styles between eras, matching the game's evolving tone perfectly. The Messenger rewards patience. What starts as a sharp retro action platformer becomes a sprawling, time-bending Metroidvania packed with surprises, humor, and clever design. If you bounce off it early, stick with it, because this is one of those rare games that doesn't just get better, it completely reinvents itself. Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown might surprise you. It's not a reboot of the classic 3D series. It's a bold leap into Metroidvania territory, and one that gets exponentially better the longer you play. At first, it plays things fairly straight. A smooth combat system, flashy parkour, and a gorgeous 2.5D art style. But once you get past the opening few hours, the game starts revealing its depth. Time powers become more versatile, movement becomes almost puzzle-like in complexity, and the world design unfolds into a massive, interconnected map filled with secrets, side quests, and brutal platforming challenges. The real turning point, when you start combining your powers, dashing through walls, warping to shadow clones mid-air, rewinding movement in tight platforming sequences. Suddenly, traversal feels like a high-speed dance, and combat becomes a test of timing and creativity. Even backtracking feels fresh thanks to clever shortcuts and optional boss fights that demand mastery. By the end, you're not just playing a new Prince of Persia game, you're experiencing one of the most refined and modern takes on the Metroidvania formula. Starts strong, but it finishes like royalty. At number 10, Ender Lilies. Quietus of the Nights is a hauntingly beautiful Metroidvania that begins with quiet melancholy and slowly grows into something epic, emotional, and brutally challenging. You play as Lily, a fragile priestess navigating a ruined, rain-soaked kingdom. At first, the gameplay is restrained. A simple dodge, a single ghostly knight who fights on your behalf, and a world that feels more sorrowful than dangerous. But give it time, this is a game that blooms. As you defeat corrupted bosses, you gain their spirits, each adding new attacks, abilities, or traversal tools. Combat evolves from basic to intricate, letting you mix and match ghostly powers to suit your style. Movement becomes tighter, exploration more rewarding, and boss fights increasingly intense. What sets Ender Lilies apart is its tone. The mix of melancholic music, dreamlike visuals, and quiet storytelling gives every moment weight. It's not just about getting stronger, it's about uncovering the tragedy behind the corruption. It starts as a slow, graceful descent into darkness, but by the end, you're wielding a full arsenal of fallen warriors and dancing through chaos. If you love games that unfold with patience and purpose, this one's unforgettable. 9 Souls takes inspiration from Sekiro, Hollow Knight, and ancient Asian mythology, and fuses it all into a Metroidvania that gets sharper, deeper, and more intense the longer you stick with it. At first, you might be overwhelmed. The combat demands patience. It's all about parrying, timing, and learning enemy patterns. Your character, E, feels vulnerable early on, your toolkit is limited, and every enemy can punish sloppy play. But once you start unlocking new abilities and upgrades, 9 Souls transforms into something special. The core parry-based combat becomes second nature, and you begin chaining perfect counters into brutal finishers. Boss fights that once felt impossible turn into skill tests you crush with precision. And exploration? It gradually opens up into a stunning, non-linear world packed with secrets, shortcuts, and lore that dives deep into cyberpunk Taoist mythology. It's a slow climb, but a rewarding one. The pacing is deliberate, the challenge is real, and the payoff is so worth it. 9 Souls is a game that respects your time and your skill. It doesn't hand you power, it makes you earn it. And once it clicks, it becomes one of the most rewarding Metroidvanias in years. Axiom Verge starts off like a classic throwback. All chunky pixels, eerie synths, and a mysterious underground world that screams Metroid. But give it time, and you'll realize it's not just honoring the genre. It's quietly reshaping it. You begin with a simple gun and a vague mission. Movement is stiff, and the world feels intentionally disorienting. But as you dive deeper, Axiom Verge starts layering in wild weapons, strange glitches, and abilities that bend the rules of the game world itself. What makes this game stand out is how it plays with the idea of corruption, visually and mechanically. One upgrade lets you glitch enemies into weaker forms. Another lets you phase through walls. As your toolkit grows, so does your freedom to break the game's logic in satisfying, mind-bending ways. The map is massive and packed with secrets, but it's the power curve that truly shines. You go from lost and underpowered to becoming a walking glitch god, warping space and deleting anything in your path. Axiom Verge doesn't just get better, it becomes a digital fever dream you have to see through to the end. Bloodstained. Ritual of the Night feels like the true successor to Symphony of the Night, and while it starts off solid, it's the mid to late game where it really comes alive. You begin as Miriam, a shardbinder in a gothic castle full of demons. At first, the movement is a bit clunky, and combat can feel basic. But as you level up, collect new gear, and absorb enemy shards, basically steal their powers, the game's potential starts to explode. Before long, you're not just swinging swords, you're summoning dragons, teleporting across rooms, double jumping over traps, and turning invisible to bypass enemies. The sheer variety of abilities and builds you can create is staggering. Every enemy you fight might drop a shard, giving you yet another tool to play with. Exploration ramps up too. Hidden areas, alternate routes, massive side quests. The castle becomes this giant, intricate puzzle box that rewards curiosity and backtracking. It's stylish, flexible, and overflowing with content. What begins as a Castlevania tribute grows into something massive, customizable, and endlessly addictive. If you stick with it past the slow intro, Bloodstained transforms into one of the richest Metroidvania experiences out there. This is the game that defined what a Metroidvania is, and even decades later, Castlevania Symphony of the Night still gets better the more you play. At first, it's classic Castlevania. Gothic halls, spooky music, and side-scrolling swordplay. You control Alucard, a suave half-vampire with a flowing cape and some basic abilities. But then things start to shift. You level up. You find new gear, spells, familiars, transformations into mist, wolf, and bat. The castle starts unfolding vertically and sideways, full of hidden areas and puzzles that reward sharp eyes and backtracking. And then it happens, the infamous upside-down castle reveal. Just when you think the game is over, it doubles in size, flips the map, and throws even tougher enemies and deeper secrets your way. That moment alone has become legendary. What makes Symphony of the Night timeless is how it rewards exploration, experimentation, and persistence. It doesn't just offer power-ups. It gives you freedom, letting you carve your own path through a labyrinth that never stops surprising. It's moody, stylish, endlessly replayable, and it laid the foundation for everything else on this list. Guacamelee 2 doesn't just deliver fast-paced Metroidvania action. It blends absurd humor, colorful art, and brutally tight platforming into a game that keeps leveling up the more you play. You start off as Juan, the once legendary Luchador, now retired and out of shape. Early on, the moves are familiar: punches, kicks, and a few special wrestling abilities. But as you progress, the game throws wild new mechanics at you. Chicken transformations, dimension switching, and combo-heavy combat that rewards precision and timing. Each area introduces fresh challenges, often designed around your latest power. Whether it's chaining uppercuts into air dashes or flipping between dimensions mid-jump, the platforming demands skill, and it feels amazing once you master it. Combat also becomes more strategic, with enemies that can only be hit using specific moves. What makes Guacamelee 2 shine is its energy. The vibrant visuals, hilarious writing, and constant evolution of abilities mean you're never doing the same thing for too long. And by the final areas, you're flying through gauntlets like a Luchador superhero on turbo mode. It's chaotic, polished, and pure fun. A sequel that builds on everything great from the first game and dials it up to 11. Blasphemous 2 is grim, brutal, and steeped in dark religious imagery. But beneath its unsettling surface lies one of the most satisfying Metroidvanias of recent years. You begin as the penitent one, reborn and once again tasked with navigating a nightmarish world of cursed clergy and tortured souls. At first, the movement feels weighty and deliberate, and the enemies hit hard. But this is a game that slowly empowers you, and by the end, you're wielding holy destruction with terrifying grace. Unlike the first game, Blasphemous 2 gives you 3 weapon paths from the start, each with unique strengths, traversal abilities, and combat styles. This opens up multiple playstyles and encourages experimentation. Exploration also improves dramatically, with more thoughtful shortcuts, clever environmental puzzles, and secrets tucked behind skill-based platforming. Boss fights are vicious but fair, each one a memorable test of reflexes and pattern recognition. And as your arsenal expands, so does your confidence, turning fear into dominance. What begins as a punishing pilgrimage evolves into a power fantasy wrapped in poetic despair. It's tough, it's beautiful in a grotesque way, and it's endlessly rewarding for players who stick with it. Metroid Dread is a masterclass in tension, momentum, and payoff. A Metroidvania that starts strong and somehow keeps getting better and faster with every upgrade. You begin with classic Samus basics. A few missiles, a charge shot, and limited mobility. The opening hours are cautious, full of creeping through dark corridors and avoiding the terrifying EMMI robots that stalk you like invincible predators. But as you progress, you slowly turn the tables. Power-ups in Dread aren't just tools, they transform how you play. Each new ability adds to your movement vocabulary, until you're wall jumping, dashing through enemies, and stringing together high-speed maneuvers like a super-powered ninja in space armor. Even backtracking becomes thrilling, as new routes open up with stylish flair. The EMMI zones evolve too. What once felt like horror becomes a playground of precision once you earn the Omega Blaster, and finally hunt the things that once hunted you. By the final stretch, Metroid Dread turns into a blur of reaction speed and muscle memory. It's fast, fluid, and finely tuned. A modern reminder of just how exhilarating the genre can be when everything clicks. Ori and the Will of the Wisps doesn't just evolve as you play. It blossoms into one of the most breathtaking, emotionally charged Metroidvanias ever made. The game begins with grace and restraint. Ori's world is fragile, painted with emotion, and you feel it in every fluttering jump. But then the upgrades start rolling in. Dashes, grapples, double jumps, burrowing through sand, launching off enemies mid-air, and suddenly movement becomes art. What makes this journey so rewarding is how your growing skill set turns once impassable terrain into high-speed traversal playgrounds. Backtracking isn't a chore. It's an opportunity to dance through the environment with style and flow. Combat also deepens as you unlock and swap between a variety of customizable abilities, from spirit swords to homing arrows to explosive hammers. But it's not just about mechanics. Will of the Wisps tells a heartfelt, deeply personal story of sacrifice and hope, with a score that swells alongside your journey. By the final act, you're not just playing, you're feeling every moment. This is a Metroidvania that starts softly and ends like a symphony. It doesn't just get better, it becomes unforgettable. And finally, at number 1 we have Hollow Knight. This isn't just one of the best Metroidvanias ever made. It's the gold standard for how a game can evolve into something extraordinary the deeper you go. You start as a small, silent knight exploring the ruined kingdom of Hallownest. First, it's lonely and cryptic. Your moves are basic. The map is unclear. The world feels vast and a little intimidating. But with every new ability, the dash, the wall jump, the double jump, the mantis claw, the shadow cloak, the game starts to open up in ways that are both exhilarating and mind-blowing. Backtracking becomes discovery. Bosses go from terrifying to triumphantly beatable. Every corner of Hallownest hides something worth finding. Whether it's a new charm, a secret area, or just a beautifully melancholic story moment. What really sets Hollow Knight apart is how much it respects your curiosity. It doesn't hold your hand, but it rewards your patience 100-fold. You don't just get better gear, you get better. And by the time you've fought the Radiance or braved the White Palace, you realize this game wasn't just growing, you were too. It starts quietly. It ends as a masterpiece. In the best Metroidvanias, the first boss isn't the peak. It's just the prologue. These games evolve alongside you. They reward every step, every backtrack, every moment you choose to push forward. From humble beginnings to full-blown chaos, they're a reminder that the deeper you go, the better it gets. So, what's your favorite slow-burn Metroidvania? Drop it in the comments. We're always looking for the next hidden gem that takes time to shine. And if you enjoyed this list, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss a journey worth taking.